Welcome to this budget reconciliation edition of Leader Time by FedNet, your podcast source for floor remarks by Senate Republican Leader John Thune and Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. During a rare Friday session on June 27th, Thune focused remarks on tax permanence and reforms planned for the budget reconciliation package, military and border security resources included in the bill, as the parliamentarian continued a statutory review of provisions. The following material is protected by copyright.
Mr. President, the centerpiece of our bill is permanent tax relief for the American people. The 2017 Republican-led tax cuts lowered rates for every income bracket. We doubled the child tax credit and nearly doubled the standard deduction. But those policies will expire at the end of the year without action from Congress, which means a typical family would be hit with a $1,700 tax hike next year. In my state of South Dakota, South Dakotans would see their taxes go up on average $2,500. We're determined not to let that happen. Not next year, not ever. Our bill makes the 2017 lower tax rates permanent. It raises the child tax credit to $2,200 per child and links it to inflation permanently. And it maintains the higher standard deduction that 90% of taxpayers use. And, Mr. President, we're not stopping there. Seniors will have an even higher standard deduction. Millions of tipped workers will benefit from no tax on tips. And millions of hourly workers will be able to keep more of their overtime pay with no tax on overtime. Mr. President, passing this bill means smaller tax bills and bigger paychecks for the American people. Permanently. It will also help get our economy firing on all cylinders again. In 2017, we boosted our economy by lifting the tax burden on American businesses. We lowered tax rates for the owners of small and medium-sized businesses, farms, and ranches. We made it easier for them to recover the cost of investing in their businesses, which in turn freed up cash for them to invest in their operations and their workers. These and other major reforms helped kickstart our economy. And now we have the opportunity to make all of the pro-growth reforms from 2017 permanent and go even further. Our bill makes the small business deduction permanent. Full expensing for new equipment and domestic R&D will be permanent. Full expensing for new factories and factory improvements will generate growth and job creation, encourage more goods to be made in America. A higher death tax threshold that's linked to inflation will spare countless family farms, ranches, and small businesses from a potentially devastating tax and the cost of burdensome planning. And the next generation will be able to access new investment accounts when they reach adulthood to use for education, to start a business, to buy their first home, essentially, Mr. President, to get a running start on the American dream. All of this means more money in Americans' pockets, more opportunity, and greater prosperity. Mr. President, a bill to make America stronger and more prosperous would be incomplete if it didn't make America's farmers and ranchers stronger. Agricultural producers will, of course, benefit from permanent tax relief. But this bill also directly addresses the challenges producers have faced these past few years. It increases reference prices for every covered commodity. It enhances crop insurance coverage and affordability, including for farmers just starting out. And it supports risk management, disaster assistance, and conservation programs that producers depend upon. Mr. President, the last few years have been some of the toughest in recent memory for American agriculture. And I'm proud that this bill addresses these issues head on. And I can assure America's farmers and ranchers that their priorities will continue to be a priority here in Washington. Mr. President, this bill is also about a stronger America. And it makes a generational investment in our national security, all of our national security. And that starts with securing our borders. The Trump administration has already done incredible work stemming the flow of illegal immigrants and deporting criminals who had taken up residence in our country. But there's more work to be done, and law enforcement needs more resources to do it. And our bill provides those resources. Technology and manpower to stop illegal immigrants and illegal drugs at the border. Increased capacity to deport dangerous individuals from our country. And yes, finally finishing the wall. As I said, the administration has made great progress already, and I'm eager to get these resources into the hands of the men and women on the front lines to solidify those gains. Mr. President, we're also making a major investment in strengthening our military. Recent events have only reinforced the imperative of military readiness. But in a number of instances, we've let our military strength slip, and adversaries like China begun to outpace us in key capabilities. Our bill will help reverse that trend. It invests in shipbuilding, supports a new Golden Dome for missile defense, revitalizes defense manufacturing capacity in America, and invests in the war-fighting technologies of tomorrow. With this bill, we can help ensure that our men and women in uniform have what they need to deter and defeat any threat. Mr. President, we're safeguarding our national security from every angle, which means addressing energy security. Energy security might not get the same attention as border security and national defense, but it's a big part of keeping America strong and secure. Relying on energy from hostile nations or unstable parts of the world can be a dangerous proposition. And maintaining energy independence is key to keeping a country secure. We're fortunate to have an abundance of natural resources in this country, and our bill makes sure that the American people benefit from those resources by freeing them up for responsible domestic production for a secure, stable, and affordable supply of energy. Mr. President, there's a lot more I could say about this bill, but before I close, I just want to talk about how this bill delivers on Republicans' promise to rein in the size of government. Deliver savings to the American people by reining in waste, fraud, and abuse in federal programs. It includes the largest spending cut in American history, as well as common sense, good government reforms that haven't been attempted in Washington, D.C. in decades. And with more revenue we get, Mr. President, by growing the economy, not by raising taxes, this bill will actually help reduce the deficit by as much as $6 trillion. Mr. President, this bill delivers on the mandate the American people gave Republicans last year. A stronger America, a safer America, and a more prosperous America. It's right around the corner.
Schumer called work on the bill a total rush job, quoting stated concerns of Republican colleagues.
The bill has been bucking weight. The delays have piled up. Delays have piled up, and it's obvious large chunks of the Republican conference don't like their own bill. But of course, we're hearing that Republicans may still try to bring this legislation to the floor as soon as tomorrow. That's not real legislating. This is a total rush job. This is Donald Trump bullying Senate Republicans to get a bill passed, no matter what is actually in it. And this is Republican leadership perhaps daring their own members who are deeply worried about this bill to oppose it on the floor. So if Republicans do in fact proceed very soon, let me remind them about the consequences of passing this bill. It'll be a disaster for families, for the economy, and even for Republicans themselves. It rips health care from 16 million people. It's the biggest cuts ever to food funding. It raises energy prices and surrenders American energy leadership to China. And it rewards the ultra-rich. Republicans should abandon these destructive policies. But of course, they aren't doing that. Instead of fixing their bill, Republicans want to rush it because they don't want the American people to find what's in it. And their fears are certainly justified. Because the more and more that Americans look at this bill, the more and more they despise it. It steals their Medicaid. It jacks up their premiums. It takes away their jobs. And it gives trillions away to billionaires and special interests. This is a nonsense and destructive piece of legislation, and it makes no sense for Republicans to scramble to pass it. There's nothing inherently critical about July 4th. Even Donald Trump, 2 hours ago, admitted the July 4th deadline is a fake. And yet here they are, rushing, scrambling, twisting themselves into knots to try and salvage a bill they know will hurt both their constituents and their own political futures. Republicans aren't just lying to their constituents, frankly. They're lying to themselves, because this bill is wholly toxic. Here's what Republicans should do. They should not let Donald Trump bully them. They should hold firm and tell Donald Trump his big, beautiful bill is a disaster, a betrayal of the American people. Republicans should keep their own promises not to cut Medicaid. They should listen to the critiques of some of their own colleagues, like Senator Tillis, who reportedly said behind closed doors, "This will be devastating to my state." Or Senator Justice, who said, quote, "Our rural hospitals are going to have a tough time. You may have to hold your nose and vote for disagreeable policies." Senate Republicans should listen to their own words. They should ignore fake deadlines and stop the rush job.
If you're interested in following along with live action by the Senate on the bill, subscribe to our YouTube channel at FedNet TV. We've got a playlist of live and past selections just from the Senate floor. And stay tuned throughout the weekend as senators stare down up to 20 hours of debate and perhaps a dozen or more hours of voting on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. This program is copyrighted by Federal Network, Incorporated, and provided only for informational and educational purposes. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without expressed written permission from FedNet is prohibited.